welcome to another installment of Metallic Reviews, the show where I take an honest look at the harder, heavier side of music and give it an honest rating. Today, we head for the UK, more specifically Wales, to examine a band that has a ton of island flavor. Now, if that sounds somewhat odd to you, it is. It's just going to come out and say it. It is. This combination of reggae, punk, metal, hip-hop, and a partridge in a pear tree all smashed together to create this amalgamation that's an odd mix of like P.O.D. style rapping, Devil Driver-esque alt metal, and Real Big Fish's reggaeton. That's kind of the only way I could think of to describe this. Yes, it's Skindred and their new album Smile, out August 4th on, surprisingly enough, Earache Records. Yeah, did not expect to see an album like this on this label, because when I think of Earache, I think of that mid-90s underground, that grindcore, that death metal sound. I mean, for crying out loud, At the Gates used to be on this label. So, the odd combinations brought about by Skindred don't really reflect on what the label has offered in the past. But what the heck? I'm game. Let's dive in and see how they did here. The choruses on this album are definitely the album's biggest strength. They are written very well, they're very catchy, very oriented towards that more casual demographic of listener, really kind of akin to Bad Wolves in certain areas, but then they do have kind of this rawness that comes after it in some of their songs that honestly reminded me a little bit of Sepultura, like kind of like old school Sepultura, like stuff you would have heard of, like Roots and stuff like that. Maybe not as hard, but it's definitely there. But outside of that, there's just there's a great deal of thought. A great deal of thought that is put into the gross majority of the choruses here. And it's definitely not your typical metal release. I mean, you're going to find a ton of different stuff on here. There's a bunch of electronics on certain songs. We'll get into how that can hurt the album here in a second. But, it's an amalgamation of things, like I said. And but the strongest part of this record is definitely the chorus work. It plays into the album's overall aesthetic really well. When you have a metal album called Smile, that's either going to be horrifically satirical or just amazingly straightforward. And here they kind of play more into the amazingly straightforward area. The lyrics, what I could find anyway, are really that, hype up the crowd, get everybody excited, get everybody to kind of, be friends and love on each other. Let's have a great time together. That kind of vibe from this record. It is very accessible. Those of you who listen to, obscure death metal band of the month need not apply here. Definitely not for the more underground, but overall, it's very well put together for, at least in my opinion. There are some metal fans out there that are going to chew this out, but for me, it's solid. On the downside, it's a very one-note record. It's, again, as much as the choruses on some of the songs are very well thought out, there are other songs where it just kind of bounces around. The album opener is one I'm thinking of here, where they don't quite find their niche until they get to song number 2. But it's just there's a repetitive nature to it all, and that's a small negative here. The song structures are very similar, tons of 4/4 timing, just very straightforward. There's nothing that's going to throw you a curveball here. But at the same time, as much as this can be one note, I want one overall theme. And what I mean by that is that some of the stuff between just the reggae stuff and the rock stuff and the stuff where Benji Webb is kind of rapping over everything, it can clash. It can clash, and when it does, it's very noticeable. The song Love, Smile, Please is very odd on the record. It's a good song. I like it. I don't know if it belongs here. Another track off the album that I would say would fall in that same category is Mama, towards the end of the album. Both of these are actually solid songs on their own. They would be good, like, standalone songs. They're not even metal tracks. They lean way more towards the hip-hop, the electronic, reggae kind of feel that the band is going for on some of this. So, I kind of just want one overall theme. Some of the funkier, that more island-based stuff, it's cool. It sounds neat, but it can become odd when I pop on a CD and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a metal CD. And I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to listen to the metal tracks. Do, metal, 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 metal. Oh my goodness. And now I'm transported to, a dance club. And it's just like, let's do the cool, island shuffle kind of thing. But, overall, this is a record that, it sits in its own area. It beckons other albums to come and challenge it to varying degrees of success. And it's not the greatest album ever made. It's far from the greatest album ever made. Some songs on here, I will say, they're going to go on my playlist. Yeah, I might run to them. Stuff like Gimme That Boom, Set Phasers, and If I Could are right up my catchy metal-loving alley. Love that stuff. Then there's some other stuff that, again, while not awful, just doesn't really fit in what they're trying to put forward here. Maybe it just doesn't work on a metal album. It doesn't work on an album that is from a band that ostensibly is a metal outfit. But again, this is a good album. It's just not a great one. So I'm giving it a very solid 3.5 out of 5. Thanks so much for watching. Please do not forget to click like, smash that subscribe button, trying to bump that sub count up over 50. Next week, we're going to be taking a very hard shift away. Seems like we've been doing a lot of hard shifts from week to week to week this year as we dive into the Canadian death/melodic death metal scene and review Cataclysm's new album, Goliath. I hope you'll join me. You've been watching Metallic Reviews, where I give honest ratings to honest music, and I will see y'all next time.